Hello, Tubies. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing fantastically fabulous. You're like, oh my god, you look the same. Yes, because I'm trying to do a bunch of videos today and tomorrow and the next day and then get them all out to you. I don't know when they're going to go up. They're going to go up when you see them. If you're watching this, then they're up. Not all of them, because they're scheduled. You know how I do things. I schedule things, right? Anywho, we're going to talk about this book today. Icelandic magic. Okay, I don't practice Icelandic magic, but you see these? You see these? Okay, you see these? I love these. I have no idea what they're actually called. You're like, have you not read the book? I haven't got very far into the book, okay? I've mostly been thumbing through it. I just wanted to talk about it. I'm not reviewing it. But I picked this up for, is there a price on here? $19.95 in Canada, and apparently it's $16.95 in the US. But it has these sigils, I guess you would call them. Again, I haven't got very far in this book. I'm literally warning you that right now, okay? This is not a review. I'm just talking about this book. And yes, we're still doing dishes. You're like, you were doing dishes in the last... Zip it. You know how I do things. So, one of the things that really kind of inspires me about Icelandic magic is, as I have stated, these particular types of sigils or drawings, or runes, I guess. Anywho, because in pop culture and fantasy TV, they depict Icelandic magic as drawing these, right? Anywhere on a surface, a window, whatever, and it protects or it does some magical thing. Now, obviously, I really don't think that's how these work, but from what I have been reading, these particular symbols hold a lot of power in them. And from the way I've been understanding how this book talks about making these symbols, because some of the stuff in here, let's go through the table of contents. You've got your historical background and basics of magical practices, right? So the history of magic in Iceland, the pre-Christian age, the Catholic period, the Protestant period, Icelandic books of magic, the legendary black books, the Galdra, I'm going to fail at saying a lot of this stuff. Other collections of magic, the two traditions in the north, there's gods of magic, there's a word here that's got like an A and an E, but they're joined, and it's followed by Sir, so A-E, Sir. I don't know how to pronounce that. Demons and Christ, runes and magic signs. So I'm assuming these are called runes. Again, I have not got very far into this book. The legends and lore of Iceland's magicians. So there's a lot of Icelandic names here that I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce for you. Preparations of inner works, rituals, and the grammar of signs. And then there's like part 2, which is like gray skin, introduction to the workings, control, prosperity, love, sleep magic. So it's kind of like an introductory to Icelandic folk magic, I guess it is. But at the same time, I have to ask the question around, where does cultural appropriation come in? You're like, wait, people in Iceland are mostly white. Yeah, but it's not our culture. Just because they're white doesn't mean it's our culture. Magic manuals and sorcerer's staves. So this book, again, I haven't gone very far into it, but the way that they talk about, and I'm trying to find it. Okay, so the way that they talk about like setting up and preparing to create one of these magical signs, it kind of feels like creating a sigil. Because you've got the opening, so it's like a whole ritual, the invoking of Odin, the create the sign, which is sitting at your ritual table, focusing and concentrating your mind on the work at hand, take your drawing tools and execute the sign as quickly and skillfully as possible. And the sign is this thing on the front, so like you would make your own version, essentially, right? So that's kind of like a sigil, right? You're creating the design that you want, and then there's the anchor and charge the sign. So if you're familiar with sigil magic, right, you're focusing on it, you're putting your intentions into it. Then you're breaking from the sign. After the step, you should break your awareness. So it's kind of like a sigil again. You're breaking away. So what people will do is they'll make a sigil, they'll put their intentions, their focus into it, they'll stare at it, and they'll meditate on it, and then they'll burn it. they'll completely get rid of the sigil. They'll either burn it or they'll hide it somewhere around their house or whatever the case may be, right? And then there's closing. At the conclusion of your ritual, definitely end your work with a final gesture. This is done with a simple phrase or gesture. Those of the Christians' persuasions will use the Pater Noster in Latin. Most others will simply clap their hands before them, lower their arms to a 45-degree angle, and initiate the final rune and say, so shall it be. And then there's the Icelandic version of so shall it be, right? So it's my understanding, and I haven't done this. I don't know if I will, but this seems interesting. I do like the sigil part, right? But my understanding is that these signs are very similar to sigils, right? So you're drawing this thing, putting your intentions in, breaking away from it, so burning it, tearing it up, just disposing of it in some way, or hiding it. Some people, I've seen Lunar Wisdom, she talked once about a sigil that she did, and she left it hanging in plain sight so that everybody would see the sigil. You could do that as well. It really depends on what the sigil is for. These, I don't think, are called sigils. I think they're called either signs or runes. I think there's another name for them. Somebody who's more familiar with Icelandic magic and has probably read this book will fill me in. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this book because they've got all of these there's magical letters and rune kennings in here. So you've got like these tables, right, of all of this stuff in here, like their letters and their meanings and all that fun stuff. Again, like I said, I haven't gone all the way through this book. So I don't know if any of you have read this. I don't know if any of you have picked it up. I don't know if any of you have attempted any kind of Icelandic magic, or if you practice Icelandic magic, or if you think it would be a cultural appropriation for a witch who doesn't practice Icelandic magic to incorporate aspects of Icelandic magic, such as the creation of signs and such, into their craft. In my opinion, I think it might be, but I can't say for certain because it's not like a white person is stepping all over an African's tradition, right? We are basically stepping over white people. But again, North America's culture and its magical roots and practices are vastly different than that of Icelandic's culture and magical practices. So I'm assuming there would need to be obviously respect shown for the people of Iceland, for the ancestors of Iceland, and for the people who practiced this type of magic, and not just to willy-nilly incorporate it because it looks cool, but to have a reason for incorporating it. I think these, in my opinion, would be easier to create than sigils because sigils are made out of words. They don't always have to be. They can be made out of symbols, and you would just follow the same steps of drawing it, putting your intentions in, focusing on it, and then breaking that focus from there. These, I think, would also be really interesting in sex magic, by the way. Anywho, let me know what your thoughts are. I don't know if you've, again, if you own this book, if you've read this book, or if you've seen it, but it's Icelandic Magic, Practical Secrets of the Northern Grimoires by Stephen E. Flowers, a PhD. A PhD in what? Received his doctorate in Germanic languages and medieval studies from the University of Texas at Austin, and studied the history of occultism at the University of, I'm not even going to say the word because it's in Germany and it's a German university and I don't know how to pronounce it. The author of more than 24 books, including Lords of the Left-Hand Path. He is the director of the Wood-Harrow Institute for Germanic and Runic Studies. He lives near Austin, Texas. So, I mean, get your stocking ready, right? Like, he lives near Austin, Texas. You're like, he's probably moved by now. Zip it. Okay. So I'm gonna try and do one more video, but until next time, tubies.